Welcome to Quicksand, the most important news in pharma and biotech this week. After an unofficial party at this year's Biotechnology Innovation Organization convention stirred up controversy, the biotech industry's largest trade association is tightening the screws of its members to step up gender diversity and show a little respect at their parties, or else. In a letter the organization sent to its members, the organization set out some ambitious goals for recruiting and promoting women and warned that it would consider expelling companies whose activities are clearly inconsistent with its values. The letter raises the 2025 target for female representation at the functional leader and C-suite level to 50%, from the current 25%. At the board level, Bayer wants to see women filling 30% of the industry board seats by 2025, rather than the current level of 10%. On the qualitative side, the letter vows in a resounding tone to condemn actions, activities, or events that run counter to its values. For companies that step out of line, Bayer said it has established processes for reviewing their membership. The last part was a veiled reference to an unofficial annual party called Party at Bio Not Associated with Bio. At this year's event, topless women danced, their bodies painted with the logos of investment groups and biotech companies sponsoring the event. The industry, including sponsors of the party, soon moved to condemn the lack of awareness and sensitivity to sexist bias. Bio is promising to keep the spotlight focused on gender diversity, while also pledging to do more on racial diversity, as well as increased LGBTQ representation. The FDA issued a revised draft guidance designed to allow for FDA to reject 505(q) petitions if the agency determines the primary purpose of the petition is to delay the approval of an abbreviated new drug application. The new approach to reviewing petitions would also help FDA focus its resources on addressing petitions that are most likely to present an obstacle to the availability of generic drugs. Once an application is submitted, the FDA has a goal date of making an approval decision on the application within 10 months, or for some priority applications, within 8 months. If a citizen petition is received while a product application is already under review, and if the goal date for that review falls within the next 150 days, the draft guidance states that the FDA would expect to respond to that petition within 150 days. To further dissuade companies from improperly using these petitions, FDA also said it intends to highlight in its annual report to Congress the determinations of petitions that are judged to have been submitted to delay an approval. The guidance also outlines FDA's intention to refer these matters to the Federal Trade Commission. The 17-page guidance, updating a previous version from 2014, also describes how FDA interprets the provisions of Section 505(q), requiring that petition include a certification and supplemental information or comments to a petition include a verification. The FDA finalized a 3-page guidance to help sponsors understand FDA's current thinking about the relevant age groups to study and how early in drug development applicants should incorporate pediatric patients for developing systemic drugs for atopic dermatitis. The guidance, based on input received from a March 2015 Dermatologic and Ophthalmic Drug Advisory Committee meeting, where the committee recommended that for systemic drugs for atopic dermatitis, pediatric studies generally should be initiated earlier during development. Applicants are encouraged to discuss the specifics of pediatric programs as early as is feasible with the division, because sponsors generally are required to submit pediatric study plans under Section 505(b) of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act no later than 60 days after an end of Phase 2 meeting, the guidance says. But prior to enrolling pediatric patients, FDA advises sponsors to consider conducting a juvenile animal toxicity study that incorporates appropriate endpoints. Considering the effects of the pediatric population of disease-related morbidity, the risk of disease-related progression, and the relative risk-benefit calculus with off-label use of immunosuppressive therapies, it is not generally necessary to have an extensive safety database in adults before initiating pediatric studies, the guidance adds. The FDA finalized guidance on the selection of an appropriate package type terms and selection of appropriate discard statements for injectable medical products packaged in multiple dose, single dose, and single patient use containers. Specifically, this guidance provides FDA's revised definitions for single-use and multiple-dose containers, as well as for the new package type term single patient use container. The guidance is meant to help address unsafe injection practices, including the use of needles or syringes for more than one patient or the improper use of medication vials for more than one patient, which have resulted in multiple blood-borne bacterial and viral infection outbreaks. FDA believes that consistent use of correct package type terms and discard statements for injectable medical products for human use will promote their proper use and provide a foundation for educational efforts to reduce the transmission of blood-borne pathogens, the guidance says. In the past, the term single-use container has been used by FDA to describe a package type that contained multiple doses but was intended to be used in a single patient. But the FDA says the term single-use was also inappropriately used as if it were interchangeable with the term single dose, which was not the agency's intent. To address this confusion regarding the terminology, the agency is retiring the term single-use, and a new package type term, single patient use container, has been created to address the need for describing a package that contains multiple doses of an injectable medical product that is intended to be used in a single patient, the guidance says. The guidance also features a section on labeling requirements and recommendations. The FDA just doled out the first nod under a novel pathway aimed at accelerating development of antibacterial and antifungal drugs to Insmed's Arikayce. The active component of Arikayce is amikacin, a decade-old antibiotic that is on the WHO's essential drug list. But instead of administering it intravenously, Insmed created an inhaled formulation to treat Mycobacterium avium complex lung disease as part of a combination regimen for patients who do not respond to conventional treatment. The FDA has blessed several antibiotics lately, including Tetraphase's novel tetracycline, Xerava, and Achaogen's Zemdry. But Arikayce is the first one approved under the limited population pathway for antibacterial and antifungal drugs, which was established under the 21st Century Cures Act to advance novel drugs for relatively rare but life-threatening infections. The pathway allows smaller, shorter, or fewer clinical trials to support a drug's approval. Arikayce uses a liposomal technology dubbed Pulmovant and a nebulizer to deliver the drug directly to the lung's infection area, and it therefore achieves prolonged release of amikacin while limiting systemic exposure, according to the company. When paired with guideline-based therapy in a phase 3 study conducted in 18 countries, the drug improved sputum culture conversion rates by month 6. Because it was approved under the accelerated approval pathway, Insmed needs to provide the FDA results from an additional clinical study to support a full approval. The company said it's working with the agency on a trial design that will evaluate Arikayce's efficacy in previously untreated patients. Thank you for listening to Quicksand, episode 50, October 8th, 2018.